week's edition of the Wrestle Watch podcast, the only podcast that we discuss free agency in the world of professional wrestling. I am Ryan, and I am joined this week by a special guest host who you might know from previous episodes. You might know from last week, 2 weeks ago, we did our fantasy draft of AEW and WWE talent. It is Luke. How you doing, Luke?
What is going on? Hope you are doing well, staying safe and staying healthy out there. Yes, I am drinking coffee at the Lord's time, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. While it's over 10 Eastern over there where you are.
Yes, that's why I've changed styles. my styles are now clashing. So yeah, what have you been watching this week in wrestling? We can do the quick, what's been your most favorite thing this week in wrestling?
So while I just got finished catching up on Collision, I was busy last night, so I was not able to watch it. And then the games that I cared about today are finally done. So I was just kind of watching the Cowboys game, just kind of killing time. But the thing that I was most excited about, and I'm really happy about, Commander's back. Like, Commander is my dude, and that's my guy. I'm super excited to see him back, and he put on an absolute banger with Kyle Fletcher on his first match back. Healthy, really, because he was out injured with, I think, a knee injury. So I watched that. I watched a little bit of the Stardom show too. I was kind of in and out of paying full attention to it because I was just kind of keeping up with it. But when the main event happened, that's what I was most excited for. Saya Kamatani versus Izumi. I locked in on that one. And that match was absolutely fantastic. So overall, I'm not going to be able to judge the full show since I was kind of in and out of it. But the main event, fire, absolute fire main event.
That match right there, Saya Kamatani versus Azumi, that match is up in my very high in my rankings right now for match of the year. I don't think it's gonna become my match of the year, but like that match was very, very good. I like what they set up there for the future with the Momo reveal. I mean, she won the 5-star Grand Prix, it doesn't it's not a reveal. But like they also did a thing where it looks like there's going to be like a friendly match for the CMLL Japanese Women's Championship, which is a belt that really exists. I'm not
aware of that.
Oh yeah, it is something that only started re-existing recently. It is a bizarre belt, but it's a CMLL belt that is essentially like a belt that's just shared between them and Stardom at this point, for the moment at least, which makes sense because they're sister promotions and everything. But yeah, that match for me right now is sitting pretty at number 5 for my year.
With your with your maths and your calculations,
my formulas,
yeah. So you have it calculated as your number 5, number 1 overall, number 5 overall match right now this year.
I have 32 matches that I rated on a Meltzer scale that does not go over 5 stars as a 4.5 out of 5. So that is like my limit for what matches I then look at the end of the year of which ones of these is the match of the year. There's not a lot that are 4.75 or 5. I only have 2 5-star matches for the entire year, for the record. So I want a 5 to mean that it is, I think, the best match in the world, and possibly the best match ever, kind of a feeling to it. It should have that feeling to you. It shouldn't have, this is a conversation for being match of the year. It should have the feeling of this could be the best match I've ever seen. And there's only 2 of those for me this year. So
this is supposed to be pretty hard to come by when you're talking about all-timers.
They should be, and that's the we have a friend of ours that's in the Wrestle Watch Discord server who mentioned that his ranking is out of 10, and I think that he only has 1 10 ever. So and he goes on a 100-point scale, so 0.0 to 10.0, and I believe
I think it's 3. I think I remember him mentioning which 3 matches they were. I couldn't remember off the bat. One of them is definitely Omega Okada 4.
I think that's right. I think that Masawa
One of them is Omega Okada 4. One of them is Steamboat and Flair. I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
which
know
one,
the
though.
Steamboat and Flair is one of them. Yeah,
But
that's the one I knew.
I don't remember the other one though. I don't remember the other one, but yeah.
But yeah, like I'm not that level with the 5 because I only have I'm just using the quarter star kind of scale. But if I was like him, yeah, it's a rarity for me to go to that level. So I really liked that match, and that's my answer for what's the thing in wrestling this week that I liked the most. Most wanted to talk about was about Azumi versus Saya Kamatani. That is my answer.
Then I am glad I pushed Commander and Kyle Fletcher because they put on a killer match just a night ago, and I mean Commander's picking up right where he left off as one of the most improved wrestlers like over the last like 2 years or so. He's absolutely amazing already for me.
Yeah, that's somebody that like I've started to like to spice this question out there of who the dark horse pick of wrestler of the year might be for some people. Just get people start thinking about that as a concept, because I think that that's an interesting idea and concept to think about. Is, you know, like, who is somebody that's not currently in the top tier conversation who like you would die on the hill of, this person should be wrestler of the year. And I think that that's going to be a conversation that we'll keep going through the rest of this year, especially with you know what, let's just look at this quickly right now and get this out of the way of a thing. Give me 1 second to actually make sure that I do this right, because otherwise this could go very badly. Give me 1 second here.
Don't worry, I believe in you, buddy. You got it.
It's a jungle out there. There's confusion everywhere. I'm just gonna sing the monk theme song now. That's what we do these days here on Wrestle Watch. No, we're gonna talk about the PWI 500 very briefly. Very briefly. This is, of course, a podcast about free agency in the world of professional wrestling. But part of that conversation is the value of the talent that we're looking at here. And I believe that you have uploaded on your screen who the top 10 were, and yet noted one thing about the PWI 500 as it relates to free agency, right?
Oh, I think I did. I think I did. So I do have it listed up here, and just a quick little rundown of the top 10, just in case, for audio listeners, and also actually for everybody, because I can't.
Yeah, we're not going to have it on the screen.
Yeah, we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that. So sorry about that. So the top 10, starting with 1 through 10. Number 1 is Cody Rhodes, 2 John Moxley, 3 Gunter, 4 Hangman Adam Page, 5 Hiroki Goto, 6 Jey Uso, 7 Swerve Strickland, 8 Seth Rollins, 9 Mystico, and 10 Will Ospreay. So that's the top 10 of the most recent PWI 500 list, which is it is a kayfabe list. So they take kayfabe accomplishments into account, and over the course of what was the grading period, like from August last year to like July of this year, or something like that, or July to June.
It's July through. I mean, it's August 1st through July 31st.
Okay, so got it. So then through that. The one thing that I did note about it is of the top 10 that we listed here, there's only 2 people who have stayed in one place their entire life there. Oh, no, let me rephrase. 2 people that are lifers that are not from WWE. One is an AEW and one is a New Japan. That's Hangman Adam Page, and the other is Hiroki Goto.
Like, so you're meaning like lifers, and like their prominence in the world of wrestling really started in one promotion and then has continued only in one promotion. Whereas, like, for example, I mean, Hangman Adam Page obviously had time in New Japan and in ROH, but his prominent era, which I think that, like, if we were to go back in time, we would probably consider that Hangman Adam Page might not have been somebody that we would have tracked heavily. We probably just would have just been like, the Elite. What's going to happen with the Elite? You know, like, are they going to go to WWE? Are they going to stay with New Japan? You know, that probably would have been the conversation. It would have been Kenny forward of a conversation. Hangman would have been at the rear of the conversation, just as like a tag on, right?
And you know, honestly, now that I think about it, somebody like Seth Rollins doesn't even qualify for that too, because he started off in Ring of Honor as Tyler Black. So yes, talking about prominence, but if you want to talk about, like, get real specific about who has not moved, like, not counting the indies or something like that, but for major promotions, who has not moved from their major promotion, it's really only Gunter and Jey Uso on this entire list.
Well, and Gunter, of course, made famous on the British Indies.
Yeah, on the British Indies.
Like,
But he's been a part of the WWE circle and circuit for the entire time that he's been in a major promotion, like where we start tracking them.
Yeah, I think that he's the kind of guy that, like, when we look at our history of tracking people from the indies, I think that he would have been one of those kinds of guys that we would have been like, hey, no, this is one of the people that needs to be on the tracker. He's a Michael Oku, he's a Brian Keith level player.
Sure. Yeah, fair. And honestly, and the other one really is still Hiroki Goto. He's been New Japan lifer for 20 plus years or something like that. So he's also just ride or die for that company. Otherwise, the only other person that hasn't had a cup of coffee in WWE that has jumped somewhere is Will Ospreay. But he's still a jumper. He jumped between New Japan, British Indies to New Japan to AEW. So I just it's not like we're trying to find like a trend or anything like that. I'm just making observations from where these people have jumped from or where they come from roots wise, you know.
I think an interesting thing I saw on Reddit the other day, there was a thread that was about thinking 5 years into the future, what will the headlines be in the world of wrestling. So something that I want to do is just look back at the 2021 list. And we can look at, or 2020 list actually. Let's look at the 2020 list and see what's happened over the past 5 years in wrestling. Were there any major jumps from that list? And then maybe we can do a little prediction and hope that this podcast lasts until 2030, and see if who you think from this current list what will happen to them in the next let's say next few years here.
Sure.
So back in actually let's bring it back one level, because 2020 is very far, and who knows if the podcast will last that long. So let's just look 3 years ago to 2022. So that was kind of when we started, like, the formative year of WrestleWatch, before we really went off on our own. I feel like we were starting the oeuvre within communities in 2022. So looking at that list, we have Roman Reigns of WWE #1. I think at that point we would have never thought that he would have left WWE, and he still hasn't.
No, and that's he's going to be either WWE or retired. That, to me, I do not see him jumping to AEW at all.
Okada. Now that's a fun one, right? Because Okada was #2 that year with New Japan. And the interesting thing, of course, with Okada is that I think in 2022 most people would have thought very unlikely he would have left New Japan.
It would have been a pipe dream, because at that point he was still the ace of the company. He was still the guy who was selling out the arenas and stadiums that they were using over there at the Tokyo Dome. He was the guy that was still building the promotion off the back of. So yeah, no, and 2022 there was no way in hell he was going to be leaving in New Japan. But money talks, and 2 years later, oh well.
This next one is very interesting because it gets to the heart of the cycle there. It's from August. Through July. So, who returned in August of 2021? Very famously, it was CM Punk. And he is number 3 on the PWI 500 from the 2022 issue. I think at that point, I think most people at that point, because this is pre-Brawl Out.
Yeah, 2022 was pre-Brawl. It was right before pre-Brawl Out.
Yeah, so
Brawl Out was like August of that year, I think.
So like at this point, when the PWI came out, it would have been after Brawl Out happened, but before would have been when people were judging of what was happening. So I think that at the time when people were judging who was the top 500 wrestlers in the world, people probably thought at that point CM Punk's going to stay in AEW. There was something weird with that promo with Hangman Adam Page, but he's injured, he's going to come back, it'll be fine. That was probably what, and he had just come back actually in August. So when people were making their lists in 2022, I think that people probably wouldn't have thought that CM Punk would be in WWE today.
I don't think so either, but he was the bad blood was so deep with CM Punk, or presumably at that point, that the only way that he would ever come back in wrestling would be for a rival promotion or for AEW or somebody else. That's really what it was, and that's just what the sentiment was like. Well, things change, so that's why it's not so much a thing. But at that time in 2022, yeah, it wasn't really a thought. It was more like a pipe dream.
And his foil there was Adam Page, who has remained with AEW, has re-signed with AEW in the period of time since then, even.
Yeah. I don't think his re-signing to AEW was guaranteed. I don't think it was considered to be guaranteed. That's why the Elite free agency cycle of 2023, I believe is what it was. That's why it was kind of so up in the air and why there was a lot of headlines and stuff like that. It was like there was a chance that they could go Kenny Omega, the Bucks, get their WrestleMania moments. Right at that point, well, actually, yeah, Adam Page was still the big star because he was the title holder up until CM Punk came around. So, but even then, if I was putting it on the WrestleWatch tracker grade, I could list it as like a possible. Yeah, I could see him going to WWE or something like that, or somewhere else really. For Adam Page at least. That's what I'm just thinking. If I'm thinking back in 2022.
Well, 2022 before Brawlout.
Yeah, before Brawlout, and then when Brawlout happened, I
wouldn't have even had him on there, even though like at that point, because if you're thinking about their Elite's contract would have been up in the spring of 2023, so they would have been within 1 year, yes. But I think that that's when they re-signed, was the spring of 2023 before Collision was announced. I think that at that point, pre-Brawlout, that most people would have presumed that the Elite were going to stay with AEW. I don't think that we would have even put them on the tracker, honestly. It's possible that they would have been in a remote position on the tracker. But I think that that's kind of where it would be.
Real quick, we TC's in the chat. First of all, what's going on, dude? Hope you're doing well. Saying that the cracks were starting to show at that point. That's kind of where it was.
About
like
CM
around
Punk.
the point, especially about CM Punk, and then aren't the Elite's deals up soonish? It depends. It depends on how long, because we definitely know it was multi-year, and if it was like the low end of multi-year, 3 years is 2026. So kind of, sort of, yeah. But unless they did a full long-term 5-year deal, it's going to be a while. But I think it was. Well, actually, I don't know how long.
There's one of those three that has been injured for a lot of that time.
True, that is true. So I don't know how they're gonna want to work out that
over a year, and he wasn't even. It wasn't even a matter of them trying to bring him in for anything. It was just he was gone. Kenny was gone.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is how they want to work out the injury time compared to the rest of the Elite, because the Elite all plan to re-sign together, and they plan together. If there's anybody who can try and work some sort of way to, I guess, have injury time added as a collective, it could be them. They're like the backbones of the entire company. So that's what I'm just saying. I don't know the legal stuff going on with that. I don't know how that part works. But truth be told, if there's anybody that could do it, it would be them. But you are correct. Kenny would have to be waiting it out and a year longer than the rest of the Elite.
I think that they would probably just line up their contracts. And I think that the word on the Bucks is that they might be that this past contract that they had signed might be their last long-term full-time contract. Kenny might also be towards the end of his career as well, unfortunately. So I think that at this point it and additionally there's been a lot of you've seen the tweets this week from Kenny Omega that have kind of been rousing for AEW side concerning some internet beef. So I think that personally, I think that the odds are very low that even if their contract comes up in the spring, that they would leave AEW right now.
Yeah.
Because also, that was out of Kenny's own volition to get into this Twitter stuff.
Also, I think just in general, I think the cozying up to TKO and Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, I think that's made the Elite much more comfortable in just becoming AEW until they retire. I have an inkling, but we'll see. We'll find out. Especially Hangman.
Number 5 was Bobby Lashley, who is now currently in AEW. I think at that point we probably could have seen that things were heading in a certain direction with how Hurt Business was being handled.
Were the Hurt Business even around in 2022?
By that point?
Yeah, because I thought they were like a pandemic thing, like during the Thunderdome era.
No, they were still around in 2022, but they had been kind of truncated a lot from what they originally were. I think that Bobby and MVP left technically Hurt Business at the beginning of 2022. It was a weird time in WWE. They were trying to push Cedric and Shelton as a tag team. As the Hurt Business. Number 6 on the list was Cody Rhodes, who is still with WWE. He's been on their tracker since then because his contract did come up. He did re-sign with them. His contract is through at least his 40th birthday, which already happened. So he's there's possibility that his contract will come up soon, but I don't think in 2022, with him just going back to WWE, that we would have thought there was any chance at that time that he was going to quickly be leaving WWE.
Yeah, no, not exactly. And by that point, I think when Cody famously jumped from AEW to WWE, it's one of the biggest, highest profile since the start of AEW at that point. Probably the biggest, really, until CM Punk happened. But now, if it was jumping from AEW to WWE and got the fanfare that he did, even back then, I was thinking people probably weren't going to expect him to jump. Like, he could go back. He just wasn't. He was treated as a complete and total superstar and complete and total megastar, and like build the company around him kind of star. That's just what he's been treated as since he came back. So he wasn't going to jump, especially even back in 2022. He wasn't jumping. Real quick, TC say, if you can only keep one of the 4, you prioritize Hangman 100%. Absolutely. You absolutely go for Hangman 100% because he's going to be one of the only ones that is still around at that point. He's also the youngest. And was MVP managing Omos at this point? Possibly. I honestly don't remember, so I'm going to trust your memory on that. But anyway.
We had next was number 7, Bryan Danielson, who had his return to wrestling, as some would say. But no, that was from that would have been covering the period of his only his AEW career, his first year of AEW. Would not have covered any of his time at WWE anymore. I think that I think at that point we would have not within a year he would be gone from AEW. So I don't think that we would have thought about him leaving AEW. Now he's pretty much there to stay. I would say lifer, but he's slowly becoming that way about AEW.
He is doing above and beyond backstage work with them, including in the promotion side and just the outreach side. He's going out above and beyond that for the AEW side. He's pretty dang entrenched at this point.
Next was El Hijo del Vikingo. I think the interesting thing there is that I think at that point, especially because he was being featured on AEW programming, people probably thought that there was going to be heading in the direction of him going to AEW. I don't think that people would have expected him making appearances on WWE television 2 years later.
And honestly, it was more so that we thought he was going to get poached from AAA to AEW, and then he re-signed with AAA, like multi-year re-signed with AAA, which surprised pretty much everybody. Well, every single one of us that was in WrestleWatch, it surprised all of us that he re-signed with AAA, which now AAA is an arm of WWE, which, well, it happens.
This next one's kind of unfortunate. It was Big E.
Well, yeah,
that one's the most sad one, I think, of this. I think that we've thought about the fact that they could have left WWE going back then as far for the New Day. I think that people could have thought that they would have left WWE or stayed in WWE. I don't think that anything would have shocked people about their contracts one way or the other.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think so. But even then, since Big E has been off of television, he's been off of wrestling because it's not clear to wrestle possibly anymore ever. But he's on the PLE broadcast shows and the hype shows and stuff like that. He's still very much a part of WWE. So even if his contract were to have expired or something like that, he probably would have re-signed with WWE, even if that was the case, as a talent like that.
And then finally, we have Jonathan Gresham as number 10 that year, which I think that he was with ROH at that point. Okay. And I don't think that we would have necessarily thought that he was going to end up at some different promotion necessarily. He's currently just independently wrestling. So I don't think that we would have been so shocked by that development also.
No, not necessarily. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not too familiar with the beef that happened between him and Tony Khan, but by all accounts, I think they're more or less buried the hatchet with that sort of thing. I think they're okay, but even then, he's been going to TNA, and he's just been doing his own thing there. I don't know if he resigned. I think he resigned with TNA, but ever since then, he's just kind of freelancing, and I think that's where we expected him to just end up.
So I think the fun thing then to go through, okay, we have 2 comments from TC in the chat about Vikingo jumped to WWE, but not at his own volition. I think that's an accurate way of putting that. And then, is this the ranking that Gresham used to try to get out of losing to Claudio?
I'm sorry, what?
Let me.
I don't know. I don't know this story. I don't know the story. What?
He was upset about losing the world title. Let me look through history here. No, this would have been after, because the Claudio match was July of 2022. This list was issued after that. Okay. So I think it was the ranking from the year before, which I don't have, unfortunately, right in front of me. He wasn't in the top 10, though. But moving forward here, looking at the top 10 of this year, if we're going to look into 2028, okay? Open your third eye into 2028. Align your chakra, if you will. Who do you think of this list will be in a different promotion 2028? Do you think anybody?
Man, I actually don't think so. I'm looking at it right now. Goto, I just think is an immediate out. He's ride or die with New Japan, and he'll come over to the States for a date or two when New Japan's strong, but I don't think he would do it long term. So I wouldn't use him. Gunter is Triple H's boy, and so I think he's going to stay loyal to him. I wouldn't see it. Cody is loyal to WWE in general, so unless they decided to just completely and totally undercut his power and do something with that, or cut his pay, he's probably not leaving there either. Didn't he have a quote just earlier this week that he can see either one of him, Seth Rollins, or CM Punk running WWE at some point?
First, hi, Bitcoin Tech. Hi, also. Yeah, there was him saying that he thinks that right now there is essentially a power struggle within WWE about who will be the main roster booker after Triple H is out of the picture. There's been some talk recently about Triple H's health, which I don't want to get into.
That's beyond us.
But yeah, he essentially said that he thinks that himself, Punk, or Rollins will be the most likely to be running the book in the future. Interestingly, he left out Shawn Michaels.
He might be on the way out for health issues too, but we don't know them.
I don't think so. The health issues with Triple H are about his heart. Yeah, it's like an actual, real, legit thing. But I don't want to get into it of there's the time, there's the clock on it. It's like we don't know. But I think that the more likely thing on the main roster is for Shawn Michaels to take over, and then one of those three, or Undertaker to take over the NXT book. He has been brought in now for AAA. I think it's interesting when we consider what Cody is saying, and then you consider who WWE actually is using for booking and producing matches. Your agents that are at AAA are none of those people. Your agents in NXT are none of those people. I think that it's a little bit wishy by Cody, but I think that Punk definitely wants it, it seems. But I think that is kind of the scenario in which you could see Cody, not being with WWE coming up, is if that doesn't go in his favor, if, the tides start to turn from him being, the great face champ, So I think that those are possibilities. I think that Cody, if as TC is asking in the chat, is Gunther the most likely, then I think that I would say that the most likely people on this list that I would see in a different promotion in 3 years, I will give you my top 3, and this is not ranked, just my top 3. I'm going to go in the ranking of how they currently are positioned in the PWI 500. Cody, Gunther,
Mm-hmm.
and Mystico.
I was actually thinking Mystico too, believe it or not. So of those ones who are probably, you kind of talked me into thinking that Cody could be the most likely, especially because he is a part of the power struggle of just wanting to, align himself with power at some point when he's done wrestling. I can definitely see him being that. And if he does not get that, he loses out to Punk or somehow Rollins, then I can see him taking his ball and going home, because he did do that the last time with, AEW. Well, he got cut the last time, but still, he does have experience out in the wild with New Japan, the Indies, Ring of Honor, and AEW. So I can see that. If nothing else, probably Mystico would be my other most likely, and it would just be him having a nice little retirement run in AEW just for a little bit.
Essentially, yeah. I think, or I could see a scenario where he does like a 50-50 level amount of bookings between AEW and CMLL.
Yep.
I don't think that he's gonna retire in CMLL. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
I do, and TC, I do agree. Mystico would be dumb to jump, but money, I guess. I do agree that it's still not very likely. I'll be honest, none of these people seem very likely for me to jump. I actually don't think Gunther's going to jump at all. He's too much of Triple H's guy. Unless Triple H leaves or something happens to Triple H, then I can see that scenario. But still, as long as Triple H is there, Gunther's not leaving.
Well, I would point out that the three people who jumped, there's essentially three people that jumped in 2022 from the 2022 list, is Okada, Punk, and Lashley. I think that at that time, I think the most likely people to jump probably were not that trio.
Fair. That's fair.
Like, it would have been Vikingo, maybe Lashley, maybe Cody, maybe Big E. But I don't think that Okada would have been or Punk would have been in the top three.
That's fair. That's fair.
So that's kind of where I'm at. Is like, I think that, like, and even when you're looking at like the year before, just as an example, Kota Ibushi is on that list.
Cool. That's a funny one.
That's a funny one. That's an interesting one. Adam Cole was number 2 in 2020 for NXT.
He was pretty hot at that point.
Well, that was essentially that's dating it to the start of NXT as a quote unquote third brand era of NXT, because that was when AEW started. So that's where I'm at. Is like, I think that you probably would have not suspected 3 years ago, looking at Okada, Punk, and some of the others in that list, that they would have actually jumped. So I think that's why I'm saying, like, right now, I think the most likely, even if they're not extremely likely, would be Gunther, because I think that there's interest in other promotions for his services. There's the possibility that, styles change in WWE over time. And they might not find favor for his style. Cody Rhodes, power struggle kind of stuff. And then Mystico, just, it's possible that, like, he will be dual contracting and maybe hold a belt in AEW. I don't think that he's going to leave CMLL. I will say that. But, like, I think that there's a possibility that, like, you could see something in the next 3 years where he's, like, like, unified or international, whatever they call that belt, champion in AEW. And I think that, like, part of the reason why Mystico is as big as he is right now is because CMLL has put such a big effort behind. I mean, he's very over with the crowd, but he is part of CMLL's push of internationalization. It's not like, so I've seen some of the article about, like, the gentrification of CMLL, and I think that there was a pushback by, like, Okapa about, like, it's not about internationalization, it's not about gentrification, it's about internationalization, where it's about pushing the product internationally and getting new fans and making sure that it's so affordable for the fans that are there still, and not changing too much about the product itself.
I've also seen a rumor about, not a rumor, but kind of, I guess, like a talking point, that there's a chance that CMLL doesn't really want to expand too far out, such as, like, bringing in English comms. That was a very big thing for CMLL to do that for the MJF and Mystical show, the anniversary
show.
Yeah, the anniversary. So that was a big deal, but the fact of the matter is, they're still not really gonna put too much behind it because I think with AAA doing their thing with WWE and getting totally Americanized with the way that they just run their show and the way they run their product, that they want to just really set their roots and be the number one show in Mexico, be the number one company there, and I think they want to just like really hammer that point down.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to see weekly English commentary, but I think that they're going to put more of an effort the next time making sure that it is a good commentary booth.
Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into it. I don't like talking bad about wrestling too much, but it was a rough booth. Veda was the only one who I actually liked. But the other two guys, God, I did not like them. They were not good. I'm sorry.
Veda tried the best out of it and tried to make sure that things were kept on track. And I will say, that's as much as I will say, that is a positive statement. So good job, Veda, Scott, wherever you are in the ether, good job on that broadcast. But I've heard that they're thinking about doing again, because I believe Veda previously did a different show for AAA. I mean, excuse me, for CMLL. So this wasn't the first time that Veda had been doing commentary for CMLL. This was the first time that Veda was in Arena Mexico for CMLL, but not the first time that Veda had actually done commentary for CMLL. So I think that's kind of how they might do it. Is like, okay, sure, we could do it for the big shows, but we could do a pay-per-view package for the big shows, but we're not going to like make American commentary via commentary. We're not going to speak English in the ring. We're not going to do those. We're not going to change the tag rules. Yeah,
not going to bring in like what WWE does, bring in Corey Graves to be the new number one call guy for their show or something like that. We're like not going to bring in Excalibur to do commentary.
We're not going to bring in the Undertaker to help book it.
No, they're going to keep their own guys. They're going to keep their own. CMLL has a structure, they have a base, they have that, and none of that's going to be changing under this partnership because it is a true partnership. While AAA is an acquisition, so they are changing stuff, and they should have expected it.
So how about we quickly now go into some of the wrestlers that we wanted to discuss of the now, not of the past, that might be leaving their current promotion. First up, we're going to talk about Britt Baker, the title of this show, The Doctor is In, Doctor is Out. Is Britt Baker all in or all out? Let's chat about this. So, I think that there's been some rumoring about Britt for a while now about where she is within the company, and that I think that most of us had circled the date of this Pittsburgh show that was just on past Wednesday as the date of if she's not there, then something is going on. So far, right now, we have Wrestling Observer newsletter, we had Dave Meltzer saying it seems that she is on the way out. Let me try to get the exact phrasing that he used in the Observer. We're doing it live. Give me one quick second to get that exact phrasing.
Yeah, no.
Because I like being exact with things. Just give me 1 second here.
In the world of wrestling aggregators of wanting Twitter accounts, X accounts, whatever you want to call them, just kind of summarizing and changing up the little tiny things. It's good to get the exact quotes.
I get it. There was recently one where an outlet tried to say, posted only after the hologram injury that the El Clone storyline has been shelved due to an injury to Eris, which is not what's going on.
No, and I thought
they attributed it to Fightful, which they did not say.
Nope. Yeah, no. I watched the show, and it literally opened up the show of the El Clone stuff happening, and what happened was it showed him reacting to it. It showed the El Clone stuff happening. It's one of the first times that anybody's actually interacted with the glitching of the screens and stuff like that with, I believe it was Abrahantis who was doing something, and then he got attacked and moved out. So there was a complete and total acknowledgement of the El Clone stuff happening on screen. If they were going to be shelving it, no, why would they do that if they already knew he was injured?
Yeah, they would have just had him get beat down and injured, kayfabe injured.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have continued with the storyline So,
Yeah, no,
yeah, but unrelated to that, back to Britt Baker.
Moving back on.
Wrestling Observer newsletter this past Friday said, quote, obviously no Britt Baker on the 924 show in Pittsburgh. We could probably write her off. That would have been the place for her to return if it was going to happen. This led to a scoopster, as I have phrased it. Jacob, claiming Britt Baker is, quote, done with AEW, quote, or as it was put to me, they are done with her. Jacob claimed to have heard she is being phased out and is not very liked backstage, and that he's heard rumors he won't share because he can't confirm them and doesn't have the amount of sources that SRS or Meltzer has. Of course, I gave you the read-up that Meltzer said, which didn't go much more beyond, well, she wasn't there, so I'm going to presume she's out. So, given all of that, what is your feeling about what's happening? Do you think, and she hasn't been on AW television for a year until she said the much quotable "nobody cares" line. So, what do you think's going on?
Look, I honestly don't think we should be surprised that we didn't see her on the Pittsburgh show. I don't think we should be surprised because there's been very little mention about her at all, if none at all, about just name dropping her. That's usually kind of a bit of a tell as to where the winds are blowing when it comes to these wrestlers. In the entire year, there just hasn't been much mention of her. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if you're taking the breadcrumbs of what we've heard from just the deep rumor side of the internet, which again, grain of salt, it is the deep rumor side, so that's just how it is. Hell, even take Meltzer and SRS with a little tiny piece of grain of salt. They're just a little bit more sourced. Anyway, you can kind of get the gauge that she's had issues in the past with the locker room. She's had issues in the past with management and stuff like that. She's just had issues of some sort in the past. It doesn't make a lot. It doesn't come off as too much of a surprise that if there was going to be somebody that they were going to be phasing out in the women's division, it was going to be Britt Baker, because in a way she's kind of been lapped up by the rest of the division, so she's not necessarily needed. Like just talking from a viewership standpoint, she's not necessarily needed in the division anymore. When someone like Timeless Tony Storm, someone like Mercedes, someone like Queen Aminata's been stepping up. Jamie Hayter's finally popped off and back. With all this talent in the division that they want to focus the resources into, the only way that Britt Baker would be okay and be willing to come back is if she were to accept a mid-card role and just not be the focal point of the division anymore. I don't have any sense of where her head is at. I don't have any sense of what the decision was. But if that's the case, if she hasn't been brought back yet, maybe she said no to that role of that downgrade of sorts. Not exactly a downgrade, but a moving down of the card. We'll word it that way. That's my best guess as to what must have happened. So because of that, she's like, well, we're just gonna let you walk. I'm sorry. And if that's the case, she should just walk. If she's not wanted in AEW, she's still young. She has an injury history, but she's still young. She still has other options. I don't see a reason why WWE wouldn't want to go after her. So I can see her jumping.
Yeah, so in chat here we have TC mentioning she isn't one of the biggest stars in the division anymore, so they don't have to deal with her. I agree with that statement. I think that at this point she's not one of the biggest stars that AEW has to offer anymore. The MGF stuff, the bad Mercedes match, and the Serena Deeb stuff is a hell of a triple whammy. Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of issues that they had at the end of 2024 with her, right before they have stopped using her. I mean, it's been said by SRS many times that she is indeed healthy, so it's not that they're waiting on her to be usable. There's not going to be injury time. Her contract would be up in just under a year from now at this point. I would point out, so this is where I'm going to transition into us thinking about this as far as our tracker goes, because I think that she is somebody that at this point we should be tracking at this point.
Yeah.
And I think she's notable enough to track as well, for that matter.
Of course. I agree.
So, we are within a year. That's kind of the first measure that we usually go with about, like, should we be tracking this person, is like, is it going to be within the next year that they're going to be leaving their current promotion and signing somewhere else, and signing. The second thing that I would point out, and that this has become a thing to note about AEW relative to WWE, because we had this discussion about with Bayley, because Bayley's seeming to be dissatisfied with WWE has started beyond 1 year out of her contract being up. But we put her on our tracker anyway because we think that it is very notable, in fact, over just the top of that fact that she is notable, it's very notable that we know that she is disgruntled. Or we believe that she is disgruntled. With Britt, it's within a year, but on top of that, AEW has a history of actually releasing disgruntled people before their contracts are up if they are not using them and they just want to get it over with. In the past, they wanted to, for example, with Andrade, they wanted to have a non-complete as the obligation for releasing them from their contract early. So it was, okay, yeah, we'll release it from your contract, but you can't be on TV for X number of years. Within a year right now of Britt's contract being up, it kind of feels like, considering that they haven't put her on TV for over almost a year by now, they're already trying to sit it out. That's what's the feeling in my gut is that they're already trying to sit it out. So with that in mind, and in mind that I don't think that, as TC was saying, to kind of jump off this, she isn't one of the biggest stars in the division anymore for AEW. But I think that WWE would look at her and say, there isn't somebody else that we can make Tony Fumble chance over. And if she's healthy and she wants to work, which it sounds like from what people have mentioned of her and what she's mentioned is that she's healthy and wants to work, I think that there's something to that. So I'll let you get your thoughts in first, and then I will say where I feel like I would put her. Because I think you might counter me.
No, and I think that's fine. If I recall correctly, I think I voted her as a possible. And the only reason why I voted possible is because I honestly really just haven't gotten a gauge of just how interested WWE is. I don't know if we've heard any rumoring or seen any rumoring or anything about that, about their interest level. I imagine it's there. And I imagine it's there, and I imagine it's happening. But for right now, until I see some sort of report, which at this point it's got to be coming, because Sean Ross Sapp is somebody who has been championing that Britt Baker is healthy, and that even more so in some of his private Discord stuff, that he's been saying that he does expect her back on AEW television. I think he's wrong. I just think he just got it wrong, and you know what? That's okay, because he's just trying to see one thing like that. So what I'm going on with that is, I think that's what I would put her, at least for right now, but we'll see. So I'm not too certain. I'm not too certain about what that is, but that's where my mind is going, at least when it comes to voting her.
Yeah, so repeat that level that you put yourself at.
I said possible.
You're gonna say possible. I think it's probable. I'm over the 50% line already, and we're over pretty much a year out from it. I'm over that line because it has been a year already that we've been just sitting on her. They've done the show that would have been the moment she wasn't there. Like, I think it's over. I think it's done on that side of the. Is she gonna leave AEW? I think she's already gone. She's already out the door. In my feeling. Is she gonna end up somewhere else? Yeah, I think WWE's gonna want her.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying I would go probable right now. That I think she's probably gonna be in a different promotion by the time of the next WrestlePalooza, the next big WrestleMania.
I think she could just go back to being a dentist too and just retiring.
That's possible too. Yeah.
I think that's possible too. So I'm right there. But still, but yes, we'll see it like that.
Okay, so we'll reveal at the end of this podcast where she is gone. In the meantime, if you're following along with us on YouTube Live, you can give your reactions on where you would put Britt Baker at this moment on our free agency tracker. If you're listening along to the podcast on the podcast platform, yell it in your car. We might hear you. We'll find out. AEW has figured out cloning technology, at least as far as luchadors are concerned. TNA has figured out time travel because they posted clips before they happened on Twitter. I think somebody in their car could figure out a way to get their thoughts back to us on this recording. We'll find out. And in the meantime, how about we talk about another person that's currently on the tracker? The currently on the tracker person is AJ Styles, also known as Uncle Alan on the streets. He was being interviewed by Tokyo Sports this week because WWE is upcomingly going to be in Japan for a trip in October. It was announced also this is the hot match of the tour is not in WWE, it is in Marigold. The hot match is Io Sky versus Miyu Utani. That's going to be a fun match. We know who's going to win. Anyway, so he was being interviewed by Tokyo Sports before the WWE Japan trip coming up in October. Styles said that he has his plans set to retire in 2026. He said, I'll probably appear at WrestleMania. This is also via translation from Japanese, mind you. So that's going to be one of the factors, I think, here and where we're going to be putting him on the tracker upcoming. So he said, I'll probably appear at WrestleMania, but that's not finalized yet. The details are undecided, but what is certain is that I'll retire next year. I don't want fans to see me when I'm no longer AJ Styles. That's the biggest reason. I've decided to retire before my body breaks down. Now, regarding retirement plans, and this is where the translation becomes tricky. It's either regarding his plans for retirement, his retirement run, or his plans after retiring. He said, I haven't decided yet, but I'll probably keep working with WWE. Helping younger talent develop into main roster stars might be something I'd like to do, but for now, I just don't know. So that is kind of the question mark there is, did he mean one thing or the other regarding if his retirement plans are about what he wants to do? Because he said before that quote that he's unsure if it will be at WrestleMania. If you even work WrestleMania for that matter, or if that's his plan after retirement is that he wants to just go back to WWE and help train people. So, considering all of that, what do you think is the most likely thing for Uncle Alan in this next year? Where do you think that he's going to retire in 2026?
I think I'm going to listen to him. At face value, honestly. So for what his thing about it is, he's actually been remarkably consistent about two things. One, about how badly his body's been breaking down, because this isn't the first interview where he's given about how he's just hurting all the time and he's just breaking down, so he doesn't have a lot of time left. This is not the first interview we've heard that. And two, he's been consistent about just how appreciative he is of WWE and just how much he enjoys the company, how much he loves the company. He has been a pretty top-notch soldier when it comes to that. So when it comes to WWE in general. So if he's going to go out there and say, you know what, I can retire at WrestleMania, and you know what, I can work for WWE, maybe train the new guys, maybe do some outreach. I don't know what his plan is. I don't know what his skill set is. But if his post-life plans are, he specifically said he's going to work for WWE, or he can see himself working for WWE, that's a pretty big tell, in my opinion, about his feelings towards the company. There are people who are on retirement tours like now who are, giving their pretty exclusive thoughts about what they think about the company. Seen as being the yes man for WWE. Tanahashi's having a lot of fun over in his wrestling side while he's going to go and be President Ace once he's finally done, like with his retirement tour on January 4th. So they've been pretty upfront with their intentions of what they want after retirement and what they want to do. I don't see a reason why to disbelieve AJ Styles for now. So if that's the case, I believe him. I'm just put it that way. I believe him.
Yeah, there was a fun quote also in there where he was talking about Tanahashi and the fact that he's kind of disappointed that he probably won't be able to wrestle him again, but that he plans to be in the Tokyo Dome for that match, for his retirement match. He said that he thinks that it is a thing that has to be earned for whoever is the final opponent. They have to earn that spot. So
Aaron
that
Wolf,
was
come on down, buddy.
I see a lot of people thinking that it's going to be Aaron Wolf. I don't. I think that it has to be one of the guys currently in New Japan that's currently trying to establish himself, as like the next guy. Face or heel, whichever way you want to do it. I think that it has to be one of those guys.
Yeah, it could be Gabe Kidd.
Could be Gabe Kidd. I think that's going to be one of the three, or Gabe. That's the guy, or what? One of those guys.
Yeah,
the three.
Yuya, Ren Narita,
Shota. Yeah, I think that if Shota were to, this is getting off topic a little bit, but I think that if Shota Umino were to be more heel focused, I think that would be a very interesting match. If he was like, I tried to be the next Tanahashi, and obviously it's something that nobody can do, so I need to end Tanahashi. That's an interesting story. Gabe being the defender of strong style and Tokan and everything like that. That's an interesting story too. So as far as AJ Styles goes, do you think that we should keep him on the tracker?
I would.
You would?
Keep him on the tracker.
Okay.
Keep him. I'll keep him on the keep him on the lowest rung. I think I voted for him on remote, and the reason why is because at the end of the day, if they're notable enough and their contract is coming up, and we know for a fact it's coming up, which we do for AJ, and he already flat out said when the time is, put him on the list, and we'll keep an eye on them until something happens.
And I would point out also that he's kept it open about the fact that he doesn't even know where he's going to retire.
Exactly. So we don't know. So he's kept keeping an eye open. It's just enough. Right now, every indication he's giving us by his words is that he is WWE through and through for life. And so he's trying to think. I'm trying to think of any reason why that would change. It would have to be something money related, in my opinion. I don't know. Or maybe he all of a sudden he just wakes up one day and he's like, man, I've got to wrestle Ospreay. Let me take a 1-year deal or something like that. So yeah. I don't know. I don't see that being very likely, but it's just enough where I want to keep him in remote so we can keep an eye on him.
Yeah. So one other thing that I just wanted to mention here, just briefly for people that are tuning in, both on YouTube and on our podcast, somebody that has been on our tracker in the remote tier has been Masha Slamovich. There's been a series of accusations that has been levied against Slamovich regarding assault and manipulation in the past week, and she was pulled from a number of indie bookings, including Prestige Metroplex coming up. Her match for TNA Victory Road on Friday was pulled from the card, with TNA stopping advertising and announcing that they were conducting an internal investigation about Slamovich. It was additionally reported by Fightful even what the original match plans were, which was that she was supposed to lose the match because her TNA contract is coming up soon. We're not going to discuss anything further about that subject. We are going to go straight into looking at the current WrestleWatch free agency tracker. I'm going to read down the list for Luke. If you have any thoughts about anybody on the list, you can say them after I get through each tier. Up in the certain tier, we have, say his name and he is inserted, and it's Joe Hendry. One second there, Luke. Actually, could you say that one more time, just because it seems like the audio cut out, unfortunately.
Oh, can you hear me again? Are you good?
Yeah, it wasn't on your end. It was on my end. So if you want to give your thoughts again about that.
No, you're good. Joe Hendry, I mean, he's so very certain. even though he is unsigned, and there's no indication that we're waiting for a debut, just because there's been already a bunch of reports, like at least multiple reports that have said that TNA is phasing him out because they know he's going to jump to AEW. I should jump to AEW, jump to WWE, like full-time, full contract. It's going to happen. And when you watch the product, it's very noticeable just how more, I guess, invested he is in WWE than in AEW.
Oh, do you think that he's going to jump sides in the invasion angle?
That would be a fun booking. Man. That's a fun fantasy booking that I'm 100% positive you're the reason why. Is he going
to be the Stone Cold that jumps sides? Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, he's certain.
In likely tier, we have Ninja Max Josiah, Mike DiVicchio, Adam Priest, Michael Oku, and Andrade El Idolo.
I think we're gonna need to do another vote on Mike DiVicchio, or how do you say his name? I apologize. Soon, because I think they announced that he had his goodbyes already in British India, and that he was already fully confirmed.
I was at that match. Yes.
Yeah, you were at the match. You were literally at that match where he had his goodbyes. He headed to WWE.
Yeah. So what happened was that he had his goodbyes at Progress. The thing was with him and Josiah was that there was reports that they were expected to sign and start with WWE in September, and I don't know if you noticed the calendar.
Yeah.
But it is almost not September anymore, and we haven't heard anything about them being in WWE. They've said their goodbyes, but they haven't said hello yet, and that's why I think that we have them in likely still.
Okay. You know what? That's fair. That is fair. All right, go on.
We have improbable Dakota Kai, Danhausen, and Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho's a fun one. He's a fun one that I'm having a lot of fun with tracking because he's probably gone, in my opinion. Didn't he just get name dropped?
His name was said on this past week's Collision episode, yes!
First time in a minute that Chris Jericho has been name dropped by name as Chris Jericho's branches of his learning tree or something like that.
Yes, former branches of the learning tree. That's what they described to Big Bill and Brian Keith on this past week's episode of Collision. It's interesting because last week during All Out, when they were talking about Hangman unsuccessfully trying to win the AEW World Championship, they didn't mention against whom he wrestled, which was Chris Jericho, of course. So that's a 1 week difference there on actually mentioning Chris Jericho. It could be different commentators are a little bit looser. I think that Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone are a little bit looser with things like that. So that's a possibility. But yes, it is interesting. He still is not present in AEW though.
Exactly. So yeah, he's the interesting one there.
So in toss-up, we have Rio from the British Indies and newly added Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. So we put her smack dab in the middle between where I thought and what you thought. Between probable and possible, she is a toss-up currently.
I actually think that's perfectly fine. I think it's equally as likely that she jumps to WWE to she retires. That's what I think.
I'm so glad that everybody tuned in and stay with the podcast to get that exciting announcement revealed to them. Now down in possible, we have Private Party. Sorry. No, that was Sorry. That's her name. Yeah. Priscilla Kelly and Shayna Baszler.
So Private Party has been the subject of some deep rumor that they're definitely headed to NXT. There's no indications, no announcing, but they haven't even been name dropped or anything on recent AEW television. So I actually think they're kind of gone. I might.
You want to know my hot, saucy idea? So,
yeah.
Recently on the Fightful podcast, as a review of Dynamite, Sean Ross Sapp said that he had heard who might be a new duo being added to the Hurt Syndicate, and he showed his co-host an image related to who it would be, and his co-host said, I'm surprised, but yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be Private Party.
Think so?
I think it could be.
Why should it be the Outrunners? That would be great. It would not work.
Speaking of things that are unlikely, the unlikely tier, we have Gabe Kidd, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bailey, Bozilla, and Miyu Yamashita. I suppose I would be interested in seeing if Nakamura is, again, only used for international dates with WWE, because that's what's been the case this year, really.
Yeah. I'm still keeping an eye on Nakamura. I guess Bozilla is actually still pretty interesting to look at. I think she's going to be staying in Japan, but she did get a pretty good spotlight in AEW when she came over for Forbidden Door, and apparently Tony Khan really likes her. So she's someone to keep an eye on, but where there's just not enough there to be able to move her up any further.
I think that the thing to, of course, make note of with Bozilla is that she lasted just over a year in Marigold before leaving Marigold to go to Stardom, and immediately she's got interest from AEW to use her. So even if AEW isn't where she ends up, I think that we have to consider the fact that she's already jumped once between two promotions that I would say, I mean, within the Joshi sphere, like Stardom is the major, but Marigold is pretty notable of a promotion within Joshi sphere. But I think that like that in combination with like, yeah, she got like a big look at showing her off at Forbidden Door, that WWE, she's kind of the person that WWE might be interested in. So I would still leave her on the tier list on the tracker. Then down in the remote tier, we have Karrion Kross, Persephone, Leon Slater, Saraya, The Miz, Isla Dawn, Maki Ito, Dragon Lee, Tetsuya Naito, and AJ Styles, who goes down from unlikely to remote.
Do you know who I think is probably the most interesting person on this remote tier that just a little bit extra information just came out for them?
Is it Maki Ito? Okay.
It is Karrion Kross. Somehow, some way, because he is going to be a part of the Arch show that Darby Allin just got announced for. That'd be wrestling a match, and he is now technically associated with Darby Allin of AEW fame. So, what's going on there now?
Oh, yes. Darby Allin is part of an art installation that's going on in New York currently. It's the guy, I can't remember his name, Pettibon, I believe it is.
Yes. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he also had designed the artwork for pretty much every Black Flag album that matters. The Black Flag logo. He did the Goo album cover for Sonic Youth, which is like one that's everybody. If you think Sonic Youth album cover, it's going to be that one. So it's a very notable artist that is doing an exhibition about wrestling, and Darby Allin is producing content with him for the exhibition. That's the worst way of putting it. He's doing an art. He's doing a performance art installation with the installation of wrestling. And some of the people announced for it include some AEW line people, but also the old Killer Kross. So that's quite interesting. Maki Ito was announced for a bunch of dates with GCW coming up. She's already been working with GCW for years now, so that's not too shocking. Everybody else here, not much to say otherwise, I don't think.
No, not really. Everybody else is pretty ingrained with where they are, so it's just a matter of either their contract's coming up and we heard something, so got to keep an eye on them, or maybe there's some sort of potential development that could happen. More or less like that. The only one that's had the most recent developments, though, is Karrion Kross, really. So he's the only one that's had any real movement right now.
So,
along with AJ Styles, who just got added.
I'm going to hit you up now, as we're about to wrap up this podcast for this week, with everybody's favorite segment, this week's Hot Take! The hot take is, I will read it in full. No retirement tour is good. It's sports, or music, or certainly wrestling. Finish up with a great program or match, but don't make me watch a year of masturbatory old guy wrestling, brackets, or basketball or concerts or whatever. So, the subject that we have been on today about AJ Styles, do you think that retirement tours are just not good?
I think that's a pretty hot take.
Hot take?
I think so too. I think it is. I think it is because you got to give it. I think it's okay to give a victory lap to the people who deserve it, the people who have earned it, and those are the ones where it matters the most. Like going all the way back to, well, let's take a look at the ones that are happening right now. Cena definitely deserves one. He definitely earned it, and he definitely could have heard a victory lap. It's just not his fault that the booking around it just sucked. Like there's nothing you could do about that. There's nothing he could do about that except maybe fight for his own booking a little bit better. Who knows? Anyway, Tanahashi's been fun. has been fun. He's been just been having a whole bunch of matches that he's just having a great time doing. He did the G1 where he did exactly what he needed to do, which was just enough to make the other talent look good while not even coming close to actually winning it. So great. And then of course he's having fun and just wrestling all around the world and in different promotions here and there too, like even some smaller ones as well. So great, doing good. Let's see a decent one. Of course, just sticking to wrestling, of course. But of course, the one that you're gonna have to measure it up to is Sting in AEW. That's the retirement tour that you just have to kind of measure it up to, and I think that's the perfect balance of what it can be done and why it can be so enjoyable, because it was always billed as such a big deal and always billed as such a major moment that he was going to retire and that was going to be the end of Sting forever, while also not taking away attention from the top of the card. Because simultaneously at the same time while the retirement tour was going on, you were having Swerve and Hangman and Samoa Joe all go back and forth with each other at the same Revolution pay-per-view. That it was Revolution, right? Where they had the triple threat.
That was the triple threat show.
Yeah, that was the triple threat, and then the main event was Sting and them. But still, the World Championship belt, what matters the most was around Hangman and Swerve and Samoa Joe, all that circle who were one of the hottest programs at the time right then. I just don't think that it's a smart idea, and it can be less enjoyable if you make a retirement run the top person of the company, because they really can't go anymore. There's a reason why they're retiring. It's because they're struggling to keep the wheels on a little bit.
So on this overreaction Sunday,
you
think that's an overreaction?
I think it's a little bit of an overreaction.
Okay.
I can't really give too much credit. Not credit. I can't really give too much thought about other sports' retirement tours. I'm just not remembering too many of them off the bat right now. But overall, I just don't think.
I think in other sports, I think in baseball they're pretty good.
They can be good. Yeah, I'm gonna have to trust you on that because I don't watch baseball, so that's the one sport I don't watch. So
I think
I have to trust you on that.
The thing with baseball is that, like, because of how many games there are in a year, you usually retire. You're still good by that point, because there's only so many people on the field. There's too many people in a way, but there's also so few people, so many games, that if you're not able to work that many games anymore, you just aren't, worthy of keeping a contract on. So that's like the big thing about like Cal Ripken's career, is that it wasn't that he was able to play, over 2,000 games in a row. That's not the thing. It's that he was good enough that he was in the starting lineup for like 20 years straight.
Yeah.
Like that's like the thing. I don't think people think about. It's not about like, oh yeah, like Cal Ripken was like able to. It's like, no, he was able to play at a high level for 20 years straight and not miss a day. That's so by the time that he was retiring, like it was like 5 years later that he retired after breaking Lou Gehrig's record. It was like, okay, so like he's not as good as he was, but he still is an everyday starter. And I feel like him and like people like Ichiro, Derek Jeter, like when they were retired, they were still pretty damn good. They weren't, like like you're not really helping us anymore. Like whereas like Shaq, I don't even think Shaq got a retirement tour because he was so bad at the end.
Dirk got a retirement tour, and that was a rough one to watch. He couldn't move anymore.
Yeah,
like he just couldn't.
Yeah, I think that's the case with basketball.
Yeah, the basketball is such an intense sport on the body. Oh, and if you're going to be pushing 40 like Dirk was at the time when he retired, that's a rough ask for anybody.
Ray Lewis retired with the Super Bowl win.
Ray Lewis did retire with the Super Bowl win, and he was still pretty dang good by the end too. Like he was still solid.
He was still solid.
Him and Ed Reed.
Well, Ed Reed lasted another 2 or 3 years, and we don't talk about the last one. But yeah, so I think that's going to do it for us for this week's episode of the Wrestle Watch podcast. Luke, anything else you wanted to mention today?
No, I am good. I think we've had a good show so far. Hope everybody's had a good time watching us, listening to us rant and go over and above and yonder about all of our free agency dealings and whatnot. So hope you all are doing well. Stay safe, staying healthy. We will catch you all next time. Skeech is probably back next time. I was just subbing for the day, so it's gonna be okay. But still.
Yeah, hopefully Doug will be back next week. Just his schedule wasn't allowing for him to be back for this week. But thank you very much, Luke, for joining us this week. It was very kind of you to get it out of your busy schedule on a Sunday night at 9 p.m. Central Time. I'm sure you had a lot going on that we couldn't get to. And yes, good show. Have a peaceful night. Thank you, Manar. Very much appreciated. Hope everybody has a very nice week coming up here. If you're not currently following us, please do so on YouTube or your podcast catcher of choice. We also are all on Twitter and Bluesky for updates about the podcast, and on Substack where we give you updates every week. Until next time,